Is it possible to build a sustainable career in the music industry? That's what we're going to be talking about today on the Sick Picnic. Hey everybody, I'm your host and creative spirit guide, Matt Geiler, and I want to welcome you to the Sick Picnic, where we chat with working artists about how to build careers in the creative arts. So we have a lot of fun doing it. But before we dive in today, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button, if you please, so that you can sign up for the Sick Picnic newsletter, because if you do that, each month we will send you some information, some encouragement, some recommendations, and some fun stuff to supercharge your creativity. And now, I can't wait to get into it this episode because I am a super huge fan of our guest, Mike Post, who is a multi-instrumentalist, a songwriter, a seasoned music producer, and audio engineer. He's worked in some of the most prestigious recording studios in New York, Boston, and LA. He's engineered sessions for some of the biggest names in the industry that you know and love, like Local Natives, She and Him, Rooney, Orion Sun, The Wild Reeds, Jesse Colin Young, and Alice Cooper. And when he's not writing or playing original music with Young Creatures and Carly and the Universe, you can find him producing and engineering at his own studio, MooseCat Recording in LA. I say all that because he's such a talented and all-around great guy. I'm excited to have him on the show and to chop it up with you today about this topic. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the Sick Picnic, Mike Post.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Mike, we're talking today about the ins and outs and whether it's possible to build an actually sustainable career in the music business. We met as the result of a kind of serendipitous thing where I had found the MooseCat recording studios online, and then I was shooting an episode of America's Got Talent in LA, and we set up a meeting at your studio. And then when I went in there, it was kind of like off to the races because we had a lot of music sensibilities in common, but that was way back in 2017 when we met.
Crazy. Yeah. I think we had really just opened up the studio like in 2016. So it hadn't been super long. So I remember definitely being excited. I was like, oh, I had heard some of the songs and I really liked the songs. And I was like, this is super right up my alley stylistically, and felt like something that I could definitely help with. And then, then you came in, we met, and thought you were a super cool, hilarious dude, and feel like we hit it off right away, right?
It was a good vibe, man. It was a decent vibe.
Totally. And you're definitely I remember kind of being super impressed with, like, you were like, yeah, I did all this stuff like on my keyboard, MIDI keyboard. Like, I didn't play any of this stuff. And I was like, oh man, like that's really impressive that you were able to like arrange songs. And obviously the vocals were super impressive, and just the harmonies and the stacks and the melodies and all that stuff. But even just like the musical part of it, I was like, this is super well arranged. I was like, I can definitely play this stuff like on a real instrument and learn all the parts and, and expand upon it. So it felt like it was like, oh, this is a perfect project.
I cannot stress enough to anybody watching this, Mike Post is like an octopus, okay? He's like a 10-headed musical beast. You're going to see why as we go along. As a guy who's a musician and a producer and an engineer kind of rolled into one, my first question would be, since you kind of live in all those spaces seemingly to a guy like me all at once, how important do you think it is for artists to kind of diversify their skill sets?
Sure. Well, thank you. I think it is important. I think it depends on the person and the skills, obviously, and sort of what you want to do with it. But for me, pretty early on, like I got into music just like as a young teenager, just as a fan, first and foremost, like a huge fan of music. And then pretty much went to trying to write songs somehow without knowing how to play anything. And then I had somebody show me like 2 chords on guitar so that I could like write songs and just learn guitar. So I came up you know, just like progressively trying to do that, and started a band with like my best friends in high school. And then pretty early on after that, I was like, you know what, like this is great. Like I love making music, and I definitely want to like be an artist. But I think probably one of the better decisions I made was like pretty early on was like, I think I could put some more eggs like in the engineering basket after like a couple of, bad to mediocre to bad experiences going into studios and being like, wow, we just spent all this money and like I'm not happy with the result. Like I feel like I can do this, just as well, if not better than these guys. And then from there it was sort of like, all right, you know what, I think this is probably, if I want to do music, this is going to be a more realistic way that I could probably make it happen. You need to have the passion for it. Like I very early on, I was like super into like all the nerdy stuff that goes along with engineering and producing and learning the programs and the software. I was like, printing out pages of stuff from the internet to read like in bed at night, and books and whatever. And, just trying to learn as much as I could. So it was kind of a natural progression, I would say. But I think, probably a good decision early on was not saying, you know what, I'm going to be an artist and only an artist. Because even at the time, it was like, that's tough. Things got to really break the right way, even if you are like insanely talented and whatever, you got to get lucky.
So how has owning a recording studio influenced your decisions or influenced your creative process as a musician?
I think it's great to be able to have a space that is fully like me and my wife and partner Carly fully curated the space, and especially just like all the gear and equipment and obviously all the instruments and stuff is all stuff that I have, held on to or acquired, and it's all stuff that's like that I'm obsessed with. So having a place where it's like, all right, this is my space to like, have all that stuff really at your fingertips definitely is helpful creatively.
I don't know, man. You're like an ambidextrous prize fighter. You can come in hot with a tasty guitar lick, but you also have the knowledge of like, here's the amp we need to use. Here's how we need to isolate it. Here's the microphone that's going to sound the best on it. And so it's really a joy to watch you work like that. Cause I do think it's a little rare. Yeah.
And, especially like when somebody like you comes along and gives me that opportunity, cause so there's definitely different types of projects where it's like, all right, you're just going to be the engineer on this, or maybe they just hire you to play guitar, or they, kind of a little piece of it. So my favorite thing is definitely when somebody trusts you and allows for you to like, okay, let's pull from some different buckets here. I'll play guitar and we'll get this sound, or, or just bringing in the right people as well. Like if I feel like it's not part of my skill set, bringing in that person and trusting that process is something that, I'm still learning how to do. But sometimes, it's also sometimes like the business side of things and the creative side, as and I believe we probably even discussed, sometimes, are at odds with each other too. You record a friend's band or whatever, and you have some kind of agreement or whatever, and, you work your butt off, and then it's like, all right, you're not going to get paid in the end. There's some, stuff like that comes up. So it's always that those two things have always been, at odds. And I don't know that there's a way that they wouldn't be.
Even on perfectly aligned projects, there's some little tension between that. I don't think it ever quite balances.
Yeah, I think that's why probably, the top creative people, they have somebody who will deal with that as the face of the business, which is, I think, something to work towards as a creative, because you want to just be fully in the creativity of a project all the time, right? That's the goal.
If anybody watching this needs to record a record, I'm going to send you straight to MooseCat, because if you go through those doors, you will enter, as Mike Post just said, a wonderland of highly curated musical weaponry, a delicious artisanal arsenal of vintage and digital resources that come together, bringing the best parts of the mid to late 70s together with the attitude of the 90s and the digital of the now to take your musical project into a completely new universe. Call MooseCat Recording today and get started with Mike Post. Also, the craft services. I have to say that the craft services are spectacular. I mean, each album I recorded out there, I gained 25 pounds just off of noshing alone, because Carly keeps bringing in these gourmet cookies and whatever else she makes. It's like every half an hour.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful place.
Thank you so much. I'm going to use that first clip as a radio ad, if that's okay.
Yeah, do it. Hey, this just occurred to me. What would you say, Mike Post, are some like essential skills musicians need to develop for success in the industry? And they may not even be musical skills per se, but if you had to counsel, some talented cat just getting into the music game, off the jump, what would you say are the essential skills?
Well, I guess the first and foremost, definitely is going to be like being an expert, like at your craft, just somehow finding a way to like differentiate yourself as well. I think a good way to do that is just by kind of developing your own voice as a musician or as a producer or even as an engineer, like in any musical way, just like following your gut, I guess, and like just your musical heart in a way where you're like, this is my sound, and just like honing in on that, like whatever that is. Because I do think that if you can do that at a high level, like that is kind of where the magic happens. And that's obviously easier said than done. So just, putting in the time. Obviously you got to be at a certain level technically as well, and developing that bedrock. And then just having some sort of working business knowledge too is going to be helpful. How many artists have, like, even if you have a pretty good hold on that end of things, you're going to get screwed a couple of times at least. Knowing kind of like the ins and outs, and maybe trying to find a mentor or two, along the way that can show you from their point of view how they do business and how things are done, I think is probably the next step there.
Your voice is important, and developing that is important, because that's kind of what everything else hangs on. If that heart isn't there, you can't really build around it. But then I think that's important too for artists, that, you need to have at least a cursory knowledge of, like, here's what a mechanical royalty is. Here's how a publishing deal works. Here's how co-publishing works. Maybe you're not a legal expert in it, but definitely you want to, I hope you agree that you'd want to bring that, at least some knowledge of that to to working situations. You don't want to be one of these sad tales from the late 50s and early 60s where you like wake up one day and then all your money's gone because the record company charged you for, breakage. There was a breakage clause. They're like, sorry, all of our delivery semis crashed. We can't.
That's coming out of your check.
Yeah.
You're going to be on the hook forever. Yeah, I know. Breakage. Yeah, they taught us about that in like music industry school when I was there 15 years ago or whatever. Yeah, that's what I remember the most, the breakage clause.
Yeah, man. The more you learn about like music industry or Hollywood accounting, you're just kind of like, is there any way I could like build something that doesn't involve these entities so that I can actually pay my electric bill?
Right. It's good to have I think a history too, but like obviously not to knock too much institutional learning, but they tend to kind of go on what was at in a certain time, and especially in this industry, it's changing like literally every second is like moving in a different direction. So I mean, you don't have to be the most cutting edge person, but just like knowing that things are changing, and that trying to like have an idea of like how it's changing, I think is something that is good as well. When I first started doing music, it was the Napster era. So
Right.
I think in some ways that was kind of cool. Like that was kind of good for me to know that things were like going in that way and like not, having a foot really in that old world at all. And knowing kind of like, oh, this is kind of the new way. Obviously that's antiquated now even, but things are moving at a crazy pace even now where it's just completely changing, and it's going to change in ways that we couldn't predict, right?
Yeah. The march of technology just, I mean, since the days of Napster is so enormous and so rapid. Actually, that reminds me of a hilarious quote because I was watching an old interview with Dennis Wilson, drummer of the Beach Boys, and he had this weird moment in a radio interview, and I think it was from like 1978. It was he was promoting his solo album, and he said something very off the cuff that was like, you know what I dream? I wish everybody could experience what it's like to make a record. I wish everybody could have that feeling. It would be cool if someday somebody could make like a toy recording studio that you could just have in your pocket or have at home, and everybody could have a recording studio. And that brings up a question I have for a dude like you that's like got equal foots in the art and technology sides of the creative process. How do you see technology shaping the future of music production and promotion and distribution? You have to answer all three of those simultaneously, Mike Post.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, obviously with the AI music thing, right? It definitely is going to disrupt a lot of like things that we know to be common now. Still trying to kind of wrap my head around how it's going to happen, right? I think even like I said, even like last couple months, right now, you see people who are going on like the AI music platforms and just making songs, right?
And make their own song. And the technology now is that's truth. I mean, we have 4K cinema cameras in our phones and in our pockets, and we can, if you want to, you can achieve pro audio on your phones. So you can, I mean, we're there. We've been there for a while.
I think it's going to have obviously a profound impact, but it's probably going to have impacts in ways that we can't really predict yet. I don't know. I can't really see myself using it necessarily to make music, like incorporating it into my workflow at this point. But that could change, of course. I do think that at a certain point, I think there's going to be like the next couple of years, oh, wow, cool, AI music. Wow, it's awesome. Like, look what you can do. I think at a certain point, it's going to come back around where it's like, okay, human music is the most relatable and still, it's potentially going to be even like more cherished because it has an element, I think, the AI music that it just doesn't have and can't have because it's literally a robot making music. So
Right.
I think that it'll come full circle where, it's human music is still going to be king. Will it take out certain lower levels of certain types of production music and background music, stuff like that? Yeah, I think it probably will replace that. And there's going to be crazy lawsuits, right? They're just regurgitating like music that has been made by artists already. They're not coming up with something new. Like you're changing the words, but you're still pulling from like database of intellectual property. So are artists going to get paid from like these AI songs that, oh, wow, it's an original song? It's like, well, not really. You're still ripping off music that has been made by humans. It's not coming up with new ideas. If it comes up with new ideas, then let me know. I don't think it's going to be able to do that.
Right. It has to become for AI to become, for it to achieve that level, it has to do something that humans have been doing for hundreds of thousands of years, which is, looking at themselves in the mirror and hating what they see. And so the question is, will AI ever make the jump to, developing a soul from, being at odds with itself? It probably won't, I would say. So I agree with you on that pendulum swing. The good news about the rapid escalation of the tech side of things too is that you can put out an album worldwide as often as you want to. I mean, I could record an album today and it could be out. I could release it tomorrow, you know?
You probably will.
Mike Post, immediately when I get off of this interview, I will. Well, Mike Post, now that we've peeled back the curtain on your illustrious music career thus far, this section is called Spread the Blanket. This is where we're going to spread the picnic blanket out a little bit. We're going to have ourselves a little feast. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of your creative processes and kind of how you work personally as an artist. And the first way to dive into that, I suppose, is to ask you, as a working musician and an artist, where do you find inspiration for yourself?
Yeah, I guess that is a good question. You know, like I mentioned before, I'm just like a huge fan of music. That's where I guess it all comes from. You know, I've probably consumed more music, more probably in the top 0.001% of people my age, as far as, you know, hours listened. It's got to be, you know, approaching a mil. I don't even know how many minutes of music I've listened to, worked on, whatever. So obviously there I have my heroes and music that I love, that I've listened to, that definitely, you know, gets me inspired. I mean, overall, I guess, yeah, just sort of an unrelenting march just to try to, I guess, just, you know, get better at making music. And that's like, you know, could be as a writer, musician, or just producer, engineer. Yeah, I guess I don't know if that answers it, but
Let's say you're sitting down to write a song, or you have a piece of music that comes to you and you're trying to flesh it out. Is there a particular, you know, ritual that you have?
I think, well, I'd say maybe one ritual would be that I've been trying to do more like the last couple of years, is just actually like take some breaks and, you know, go for walks and just try to think about it more from like an outside perspective, rather than being like so honed in on like the nitty gritty like details of a project. Honestly, most of the songs I've written just happen kind of out of nowhere. I pick up a guitar, I'm not even in the middle of playing. I'll just pick up something, play something, come up with an idea, record it, and then I'll have a whole list of ideas. And maybe then a couple of weeks later or sometime later, I'll go back and listen to them and say, oh, hey, that was kind of cool. Like, what was that? You know, and work from there. Sometimes a whole song gets written at once, but that's pretty rare for me. It's really tough to say where it comes from. I couldn't tell you. Anytime I've tried to, you know, sit down, hey, I'm going to write a song right now, it's like, no.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't work that way for some reason. Maybe it does for some people, but for me, and I know a lot of songwriters who will say, hey, I'm going to write between this time and this time every day. And that, I'm sure that works great. Like I would like to have the time and discipline to do that more as a songwriter. At this stage, you know, I don't write as much as I used to, but I do have a number of songs that are always floating out there. So yeah, as a songwriter, who knows? I just try to, I'm happy if I get an idea, and then I try to, if I like it, if I feel like it's something that I can, you know, continue with, then I'll like seek to put the puzzle pieces together and say, it almost like tells you where it wants to go in a way. So I think not thinking about it is almost, or like not having a ritual or not thinking about it is almost the most effective way. Just let it flow naturally. Yeah, no, I'm not sitting out in the middle of a field or anything like Rick Rubin, waiting for, you know, the ideas to come so that I can write them down on some sort of card. It'd be nice if I had that kind of enlightenment, but yeah, not there quite yet.
You don't, you're not out in the lotus position in a meadow channeling the old masters into new tunes. That's not something that you're into, Mike Post?
Not yet. I think I think as I get a few more gray hairs, I'll have to grow my beard long, and things will change, and I'll have to become, you know, much more spiritually enlightened in order to get any ideas.
Mike, are there certain resources or tools that as a musician or as a producer you can't live without, that are like, these are my babies, these are my go-tos? You have anything like that?
Yeah, gear wise, I definitely have, some instruments that I feel like I wouldn't be able to really function without, like my Fender Jazzmaster. It was funny, like I've been playing with my band Young Creatures, and it's just like I was like, I don't think I could play these songs on any other guitar. It's funny, like even like on other nice guitars, I try to play those songs, and it doesn't have the same. My fingers don't work the same way. I don't know if that's because I wrote on those song on that guitar, or if it just, I don't know, it just fits my hands, or I'm super used to it. It just has a nice. It just like it is creatively inspiring to play on an instrument that I'm like, so I feel like is like an extension of me. Also, I would say like my Wurlitzer electric piano also is just the kind of thing you play one note on it and you feel like you're a god playing, it does the work for you. And then, like obviously I have a whole an arsenal, like you said, of weaponry musically, but the more I do it, like like I love the stuff. Don't I'm not knocking the gear. Like I'm the biggest gear nerd in the world. But the more and more that I do this, I think that it matters like less and less what you're using exactly. Like I set the same mic chain up, the nice tube mic, like the Bach 251 that you sung into a lot, through a Neve preamp, and then a Tube Tech CL1A compressor, right? And it's amazing. Like it obviously makes your job a lot easier to like have that starting point, and a lot of people would kill to have access to that stuff. So I'm not downplaying how it does make your life a lot easier, but I set the same thing up a lot of times for different singers, and one singer comes in and just like, I'm like, wow, that's the sound that you hear on record, wow, amazing singer. I guess the difference between like that incredible top tier singer, like it's not coming from the microphone, it's coming from the way that person is singing. You can get a great sound from a great singer without a lot, I think. Even guitar, right? Like you could have the same guitar, the same amp, the same everything. Somebody who has the touch of knowing how to hold down those strings in the right way. It's like literally 95% that. And then this other fun stuff that we're like, oh, cool, yeah, try this, try that, try this amp. That's the last 5%. Literally.
Right.
It's sad a little bit to me. I've always been somebody who, I'm going to chase these sounds. And of course, you get different sounds. I'm not trying to downplay, the craft of engineering and everything. I love it. Obviously, I've dedicated my life to doing it. But it is a realization, yeah, you're playing on the edges of what something is. You're not necessarily create. It's about the musician and the singer and the song.
If you could go back to the Mike Post, that's the teenager at the moment that, become enthralled with music, and you don't know all the answers yet, but you know that there's something drawing you. If you could go back to that young dude, and I'm assuming that young dude is still wandering around Bensonhurst, Brooklyn somewhere, but if you could go back and have a chat with him, is there any kind of advice or guidance, or what would you say? What would you say to young Mike Post just starting out?
I would say keep your hair long, That's it, man. I guess I would say, just follow your gut, just follow your instinct. I don't know what else I could tell him. Just keep, just keep doing what you're doing, and just don't give up.
It is snack time, little babies, where we uncover little tasty treats. The snacks I'm talking about are what Mike Post is excited about right now. What's creatively exciting you? What things you're working on? Those are the snacks I'm talking about. Anything you have right now that you're working on or in the midst of that's got you really creatively excited or amped up?
Absolutely, yeah. So got a lot of cool records coming out at various times here. I've worked with my band, Carly and the Universe. We've got a bunch of songs coming out this year and videos. I'm doing actually what's going to be a final performance for Young Creatures. Sorry to say to you, but we do have one final live performance. I don't know when this will come out, but that's going to be in about a month time. We just played our first show in 4 years. That was a real blast. So it's been fun to get back out there and just, experience like sort of that live performance again for the first time in a while. The room that I'm in right now is a room that we just finished in here. That's going to be MooseCat Studio B. So this is something we've been cooking up for the last 6 months or so. It's more of a mixing, production, and also Atmos mixing room. So you can see some speakers up there on the ceiling. We just literally like last week we got this room dialed in to mix in Atmos. So maybe we'll mix the next record in Atmos, the next Frederick Julius record. So that's what we've been working on a lot here. And then some artists that I just finished up with. I just finished up a full-length record for this group called Almond and Olive. They're a Chicago-based like folk duo that just really great songs and voices, and I had a great time working on that. So we're wrapping that up. There's another EP from an artist named Pearl and the Prayers that I'm super excited about. Honestly, it's definitely a long list of tracks and albums that I've been lucky to be a part of. Just a couple of them off the top of my head there. And we're excited to keep working on records here, and again, just get things sounding cooler and cooler.
I want to encourage people to like check you out and find you and connect with you and MooseCat and also the stuff that you're helping to create. So where can people find out more and check you out, man?
Appreciate it. You can go to our website, of course, moosecatrecording.com. You can hear a bunch of music that we've made here. You can see our facilities. You can also check us out on Instagram at MooseCat Recording to keep up with a lot of the music that's coming out that we've had a hand in helping to make. Yeah, those are probably the two best places to keep up with us.
Listen, first of all, I need no provocation to talk about the greatness of Mike Post and Carly and MooseCat and the whole scene out there. Like, I'll start talking about it to just people trying to get a sandwich. They're just in line, They didn't even know I was behind them. And then I just tap the shoulder. They turn around and they're like, what? I'm literally next in line. I'm like, recording an album anytime soon? And they're like, I'm not even a musician. I'm like, doesn't matter. Don't care. You need to go online right now, find MooseCat Recording in beautiful mid-city Los Angeles. You need to hook up with Mike Post because he's going to turn your sonic inklings into sublime reality. Well, all right. It's that time on the Sick Picnic where we do the Slapdash. We've been on this amazing creative journey with Mike Post, but now it's time, Mike, to throw you into a little Slapdash action. What's going to happen is you're going to answer 10 rapid fire questions. You have no knowledge of forethought of these. You have to just answer from your gut, first thought, best thought, right off the top of your head. And we just see how you answer these when we toss you into the Slapdash hot seat. So, Mike Post, are you ready for this? Are you strapped in? Do you think you're prepared as you can be?
I'm a little scared, but I'm ready.
Yeah, that was a frightening buildup, but on we roll. Here we go. First question. What is your favorite type of music, Mike Post?
Just well-written songs from the heart.
Intelligent answer to a very difficult and probably unfair question for a guy like you. Next question. Is your bed made right now?
To the dismay of Carly, no.
Okay. What was your first word?
You have to ask my mom. I don't know.
And I intend to immediately after this interview. Morning person or night owl?
Definitely not a morning person.
Okay, so he's on the night owl side of things. What food can you not live without?
Chicken cutlet.
Chicken cutlet. Nobody's ever said that on here, although we've only had 4 episodes. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, Mike?
Summer.
Yeah, the eternal summer. You know, you're one of the boys of summer, Mike. What posters did you have on your wall in your room as a kid?
Patrick Ewing.
Oh, Knicks fan. I think I did remember you were a Knicks fan,
That's it.
though.
Patrick Ewing, baby. He's tops on the maybe a Mighty Mouse poster too. Actually, Mighty Mouse.
Profoundly weird next to Patrick Ewing. But you know what? We'll take it. Next question, salty or sweet?
Sweet.
What is one place you'd like to see before you die, Mike?
I mean, I've been to Abbey Road, so it's already been done. Maybe just more legendary studios. I want to see them all.
Yeah. Question 10. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Are we talking like traditional superpowers? I'm not allowed to ask any questions, actually. Right? Never mind.
We're talking. It can be anything.
I guess it's gonna be to fly like a baby bird.
Yeah. You know what? I love that. You're not flying like an airplane. You're fluttering about like a baby bird, like a
Crashing
tiny
into
little
windows.
Yeah, just learning to fly. I love that so much. Well, that's
There's
our
a
10
song.
questions, Mike. Thank you for participating in the Slapdash and subjecting yourself to all of that uncertainty.
Thank you.
Oh man, Mike Post, you are both a breath of fresh air and a throwback to a nostalgic time where everybody was hot chicks and cool dudes, and everybody was having a good time, and there was no bad vibes. You know, I love you. You know, I respect your work, and I'm so honored that you came on the Sick Picnic today. Thank you so much for coming on and being our guest.
Nah, pleasure's all mine. I really appreciate you guys asking me to do this. You know, anytime you ask me to chat with you guys for any amount of time, I will be there.
As Mike Post would say himself, sick. As we wrap up today's episode of the Sick Picnic, of course, we want to leave your creative bellies full. And so here it is, your sweet treat. Find someone to collaborate with on a new or current project. This could mean co-writing a song, could mean getting involved in a festival, or maybe even doing a joint marketing campaign. But whatever you decide, be sure to post on the Sick Picnic Facebook page and use hashtag Sick Picnic Sweet Treat. We can't wait to see what you're up to out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I want to remind you that to us, you're not just a listener, you're part of our creative community now. That's a fantastic thing. And once again, I want to urge you to hit that subscribe button and be a part of the Sick Picnic newsletter so that we can help you supercharge your creativity. Until next time, make your art, have fun, and imagine anything. Peace and much love.